Opening our hearts. So beautiful. So this year, our theme is Living Everyday Wonder. It is exhibited by the art you see around you in the room. And this month, specifically, we are looking at the topic of relationships. We started the month by looking at the relationship with ourself, knowing that the foundation of all of our relationships begins with the relationship with ourselves. We talked about self-love, authentic self-love, and how that outpictures in all of our relationships. Last Sunday, Reverend Sunny gave a powerful message about oneness and our relationship with each other. The way we relate to ourselves and one another and the world and with spirit are all interconnected, inseparable. See, we cannot claim to love God, spirit, life, universe, whatever works for you. We cannot claim to love God while hating ourselves or others. For we are all this one divine presence in expression. And we cannot declare that we live in a just and equitable universe while treating others, be it people, animals, the earth, unjustly and inequitably. So today we are going to focus on our relationship within society, the world in which we live in, and recognizing that there are many nuances and intersections to what these relationships mean and how they are formed, and how they influence not only those within a particular society, but how our relationship with each other impacts and affects the global society as well. So we're invited to look at and look for the ways we can engage in society to nurture and create healthier, more compassionate, equitable, and loving relationships for all, building a world and a society that works for all. We're invited to embody love, and not solely on an individual manner, but rather a collective manner. Dr. Ernest Holmes is the founder of the Science of Mind teaching, which is the primary teaching we are based on here at Ahava. And in his book, Love and Law, he says, unity is the basis of all that there is. There is but one God, one mind, one spirit, one power. When I embody myself in my thoughts selfishly, I am separating myself from that which I think would be my good. You may think it is a very subtle thing and could not be the reason for so much trouble. Yet it is the foundation of most of our troubles. I am unconsciously separating myself from my good. So what he speaks to is this idea that we sometimes refer to as the lie of separation. If we believe that we are separate from one another and therefore advocate selfishly only for what is good for ourselves and our understanding of the world and our perspective, it may seem that we are working for our good, but in fact we are working against it because we are all one. And what we do impacts the collective. So we are being called upon to look with a grander view on how our thoughts, our beliefs, and our actions have an impact beyond just our little worldview and actually impact our entire collective consciousness, our society, and our world. And what we know is that love is the healer. Love is the great unifier. When we learn to truly love ourselves, to respect ourselves, and to care for ourselves and honor ourselves, that will then be outpictured as an extension of ourselves. And therefore, we have this innate desire to care and to love for others when we see and know that we are one. And then we can begin to build and create a society that works for all. But when we're still in that place of feeling unworthy or doubtful or struggling within ourselves, it's much more difficult to show up and be that advocate for others in the world that we see if we can't even do it right here within ourselves, within our own family, within our own community. So that's why we started this whole topic on this idea of self-love, but it doesn't end there. We cultivate this idea of self-love as a means to understand the greater and as a means to be that love that we seek for all. So why does our relationship with society matter? Well, it's the very waters that we're swimming in, right? It impacts every aspect of our lives. So as much as we may feel like we would just want to kind of go, sit in a mountaintop or in a cabin somewhere far off and not have to deal with anyone ever again and just be in our own bliss with the oneness of the divine, the fact is we live in a world and in a society where there are rules and laws and things that affect all of us. It's the waters we're swimming in. And it impacts every aspect of our lives, from what we have access to how we can safely move about in the world. And what does this have to do with spirituality? Everything. Because how we treat ourselves in the world is an expression of our deepest core beliefs and our spiritual understanding. If we're living in fear, afraid of judgment, or a belief in a judgmental God or presence out there, then our actions that we take and how we treat each other will be a reflection of that belief. If we believe in this lie of separation and that we are either better than or less than others, that we are either more or less worthy than others, then that impacts how we interact with each other in the world. Believing that we are separate keeps us not only separate from each other, but it keeps us from having a deeper understanding of who we truly are. I love people, and I love the uniqueness of people, and being around people who are different than me allows me an opportunity to learn, to grow, to understand myself, and appreciate all those around me even more. Society is not some fixed thing. It is an outpicturing of our collective beliefs. Society functions based on a set of collectively upheld systems and laws and culture. And where do these laws and ideas come from? People. And yet, often our laws are not representative of all people. It's often those people who have power in any given society that then create the laws. And some laws can easily be identified as ones that are being made for the protection of our society and for the good of all. And some laws protect just a certain portion of society while hurting and harming others by seeing that there are others that are being oppressed, or this belief that somehow some are not part of the larger society. You know, there's examples from the Jim Crow laws in the United States, apartheid in South Africa, the anti-Semitism in Hitler's Germany. But unfortunately, we don't actually have to look to those examples for these unjust laws, because right now, in today's world, not only are there still archaic laws on the books, but there are new laws being created right now. New laws that are being created that are oppressing people, that are not respecting the wholeness and the integrity and the worthiness and the value of all human life. If we desire to create a work for all, the role and responsibility of being a spiritually mature society is something worth discussing, as well as the spiritual laws that are undergirding all of life. And I'm not talking about religious beliefs or dogma. I do not believe those things should influence our laws. I'm talking about the spiritual laws, such as the law of cause and effect, knowing that we are interconnected and that our actions have an effect on others. I'm talking about this spiritual law of unity, of oneness, recognizing how we are all connected and inextricably bound. We are all inherently worthy and valuable. So when we approach life from that understanding, that is where we can begin to rise up in our level of consciousness in believing that all are worthy of love. For love is all that there is, and love is expressing in, as, and through all of us. And that all these unique ways that we get to express our gender and our sexuality, and all these unique ways that we are created in our body and our culture as well, that it is all worthy because it makes up this beautiful aspect of the diverse society we live in. You know, we talked a while back about how it's easy to appreciate the diversity in nature. We wouldn't want just one type of tree and one type of flower. But yet when it comes to humans, we all of a sudden start to judge and start to think there's one standard that is beautiful. So we are being called to look at this understanding of life from the spiritual perspective of oneness in order to value and appreciate all that we are and all that we are here to be. Yet our society has been built on these laws that value and benefit certain people over others. And until we recognize that and atone for that, we will keep repeating those old ways of being, those old ways of thinking based on that lie of separation. So I believe our first step is to educate ourselves about our history and how we got to be where we are as a society. We must acknowledge that there is still work to be done, that the society we currently live in does not work for all, that there are laws based on fear that promote prejudice and separation. And although it is very much in our human nature to want to complain, simply complaining about what we don't like in the world will not change it. We must work together to envision and reimagine a society and a world that works for everybody. What would it be like to look at the current events and the news as a prayer request, not to be taken down into the doomsdayness of what appears to be occurring in our world, but to allow it to spark something within us, to spark taking inspired action, and to ask, how can I contribute to a more humane, kind, and just society? We all have something to give, and it all is different. It looks different. Some are called to march in the streets. Some are called to organize. Some are called to vision, to connect, to create new laws and new ways of being together in relationship, to create community and a sense of a place of belonging where all are loved and accepted. We must realize that this new society will not just magically form overnight, but instead it takes work. We must pay attention and ask who we are here to be, who we are becoming, and what is mine to do. Because society is an outpicturing of our collective unconscious. So what we're seeing in the world is all the messy, unhealed, unconscious experiences and beliefs about ourselves and others. And it's coming out in the surface in a very loud and big way as a call for love. And it's time that we actually do what we say every Sunday and wake up, step up, and make a difference. We must be willing to look at what's occurring and get curious. So look at it not from a place of judgment or complacency or, it's just so overwhelming, I can't do anything, which I get. I have those moments of too. But how can I look at it from a place of curiosity and ask, what is this showing us right now? What is seeking to be healed in our collective unconsciousness that is showing up and looking like violence, like racism, like homophobia? And how are we treating one another? Even those that we may not like or we may not disagree with, can we still be kind and advocate for what we desire? What we are seeing out there, especially these patterns of violence and hatred and hate crimes, is a call to action, a call for love. As Reverend Sonny spoke to last week, so many of our laws, especially those pertaining to the easy access of assault rifles and automatic weapons, need to change. We must face head on what doesn't work in our society. Enough is enough. And so how can we look at what is occurring in the world that is breaking our hearts as a call to love and look at it from a place of hope and possibility and change, allowing love to guide the way? And now don't be confused when I say love, because love isn't being nice. Love isn't passive and, it's not always sweet. What the world needs now is to show up as love, fierce love. Fierce mama bear energy is being ignited within so many of us, such that we can take a stand for the world we desire. Imagine an ER doctor working on a patient in critical condition. She doesn't ignore the illness or the injury, yet she sees it and works towards the patient's wholeness and wellness. This Science of Mind teaching gives us the same ability to see a condition or an experience in the world, an aspect of society that does not work, and to transform and transmute it through the power of love. The universal love that lives within each of us, giving us and guiding us to reveal truth and wholeness despite conditions. So we don't look at the conditions of the world as just simple facts that we can do nothing about. We look at them as the effect of some inner cause that can be changed by changing our beliefs, changing our minds about what we desire and see in the world, and having a greater vision for life. Knowing that all of life is inherently worthy and valuable and meaningful, we can allow love to express in, as, and through us and be that catalyst for change, for healing, and for transformation in all of our relationships, including our relationship with society. Buckminster Fuller says, "You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete." Amen. I say it's time for a new model for our society. And, there's this kind of saying or phrase of like, well, when the old guard dies off, certain things like racism and oppression, homophobia will just die off. They'll eventually vanish. We just kind of have to wait it out for these generations. Well, the thing is, first of all, I don't want to wait that long, and I don't want to see all those people die to have to experience the freedom and desire that we all have right now. But the thing is, the old guard isn't people. The old guard is the systems that the people have put into place. So it's those systems, when left unchallenged, that continue to dictate how any given society operates. And when we have people still influencing and upholding these old systems, they're not going to die off until enough of us stand up and say that love is what is real and demand a world that works for all. Society is an agreement between people. It's time to start disagreeing with some things and to have a vision for what we desire, not just for what we don't want, but what for we do want. Often, even in our own lives, if someone's like, well, what do you desire for your life? Some of the first things we could say is like, well, I don't want to struggle. I don't want to be stressed. I don't want this and that and the other. But what do you want? If you're not even in touch with the qualities and the aspects and the energy of life that you do desire, how do you expect it to be an experience for you? Same thing with our society. Spending time to visualize, to listen to what is seeking to be known and expressed in this world, and to do our work not only in our own spiritual practice, but through community and collective action. So if society is an agreement of the people, we must start with our relationships with one another and work towards a world that will benefit those who we may never meet. Realize that we have the power to create change through laws, through policies, and through prayer. J. Krishnamurti says, "It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society." Right? It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. So we must move beyond the complacency, and especially those of us with aspects of privilege and power in our society, and realize that even if something doesn't directly impact us, the truth is we all suffer. when the world is not a world that works for all. As a collective society, we suffer when all are not given the same access to opportunity. As a member of society who is also a spiritual being, who also is a metaphysician, we have access to a spirituality and tools that can change the structures and foundation of society. Knowing that everything begins and ends in consciousness in this world of beliefs, I encourage us all to explore our own beliefs about society. Where have we been open to or closed off from ideas or experiences of others? For example, are you a cisgender person who doesn't understand the needs for transgender rights or equality? Are you a white person who doesn't see or believe in racism or colorism? Are you a man who doesn't understand or believe that women are treated any differently in this world, in business, in sports, and that the idea of feminism is pointless or harmful? Or somewhere on this spectrum of not understanding or even paying attention to what others' experiences may be? If so, are you willing to explore and to seek to understand these areas where you may be less aware or oblivious to another person's experience that is living in the same society that you live in? So this week, as you move throughout your days, I invite you to pause and just to look at and question and get curious around the societal norms and those around you that have agreed to follow these norms. And as you notice these things that are not a reflection of the vision that you hold for the world, ask yourself, how can I be an ambassador for a world that works for all? Seek to learn, to understand, to empathize, and to see how others are being denied access to the wonders of society that you may readily experience. Stay curious, listen, and then take inspired action. Notice what is motivating you. Is it fear or love? And lastly, how are you being called to be a part of the evolution of consciousness in today's world, such that we together can create a world that works for all? Yes? Yes. Let's take it into prayer. Taking a nice deep breath. Right here, right now. Recognizing the pure potentiality that exists in all life. Recognizing this one life that lives, moves, and has its very being in, as, and through me, as love, as peace, as freedom, as creativity. Knowing that this life, this energy, moves in, as, and through all life. I recognize, I honor, I value the oneness, the interconnection of all as love, knowing that we are all the divine made manifest. I show up today to express, to represent, to experience, to relish in the love of life, to claim and to know right here, right now, that we are one. That freedom is here now. That love is guiding each and every one of us to work towards this world that works for all. Knowing that the hearts and the minds of our political leaders and those in power are opening up to this spiritual understanding of oneness, of love, of freedom for all. As we each open up our own hearts and minds to recognize those places where we may be holding judgments, where we may be experiencing fear and doubt and unworthiness, and simply allow divine love to wash over us, clearing the way, stepping fully into our power, knowing who we are, allowing truth, allowing peace, wholeness, love, freedom, creativity to inspire every action, every thought, everything we are here to do, be, and become. I call forth right here, right now, knowing that as I stand in this place, this eternal now moment, that all things are possible. So I allow this vision for a just and equitable world. I allow this vision that we are being pulled towards justice, freedom, love for all. I allow this vision to inform me, to inspire me, to motivate me as to what is mine to do now. I choose to see love, to be love, and to witness love in the eyes of all I meet. I choose right here, right now, to know that peace is possible, to know that as we come together, transformation is happening now. Evolution is happening now in the collective consciousness as we hold to love and peace and freedom for all as the guiding values for life. So I take a deep breath of love and gratitude, so grateful for the fulfillment of this prayer, so grateful that this word is done as I release it into the action of the law that always says yes, yes, yes. It is done, my beloved, it is so, and so it is.